These are the legends whispered in the night, stories of mystery, fear, and wonder. Welcome to Island Myths and Legends. The islands remember, do you?
Amara never believed in folklore. She'd grown up in Port of Spain, where the streets were loud, the nights were bright, and superstition was just a thing old people talked about. But now, standing in her grandmother's dimly lit kitchen in a forgotten village deep in Trinidad's countryside, she was beginning to feel uneasy. Granny Ida had barely looked up from peeling her mango when she told the story. There are Moko Jumbies who dance for joy, and there are those who dance to warn. But some, Granny's knife scraped against the fruit seed. Some don't dance at all. They only watch. Amara frowned. What do you mean? Only watch? The silent watchers, Granny murmured, eyes flicking to the open window as if she feared being overheard. They appear at night, tall, still. They stand on the hill, watching. A breeze moved through the kitchen, rattling the wooden shutters. A distant drumbeat echoed somewhere in the night. Have you seen them? Amara asked. Granny's expression darkened. No one sees them for long, and those who do, they change. Amara scoffed. You're saying if you look at them, something happens to you? Granny pointed the knife at her. Listen well, child. Never follow them. Never look too long. And never ask them to dance. That night, lying in bed, Amara rolled her eyes at the warnings. It was just another village superstition. Old people always made up rules to keep kids from wandering at night. Then she saw them. Through the wooden slats of her bedroom window, on the distant hill they stood. Tall, unmoving figures, their stilts casting impossibly long shadows in the moonlight. Watching, a shiver ran down her spine. She shut the window and forced herself to sleep. By the next day, Amara had convinced herself it was nothing. A trick of the light, a weird village tradition. But the image of those figures stayed with her. Her cousin Jace, who was only a year older but twice as reckless, laughed when she told him. You actually scared, he teased. Come on, Amara. You from town, but you acting like you never hear spooky stories before. It's different when you see them, she muttered. Jace grinned. Then let's go see them again. Up close. Amara hesitated. Granny said. Granny says plenty things. He grabbed a flashlight and slung it over his shoulder. You coming or what? The sun had barely set when they slipped out of the house, their footsteps quiet against the dirt road. The hill loomed ahead, a black silhouette against the navy sky. As they climbed, the village behind them disappeared into silence. No dogs barking, no crickets chirping. Even the wind had stilled. Then Amara saw them. 5 towering figures stood at the crest of the hill. Their stilts dug into the earth, yet they left no footprints. Jace exhaled sharply. Damn! Amara's pulse quickened. Her grandmother's voice whispered in her head. Never look too long. But she couldn't look away. A thought crossed her mind unbidden. A dare. A test. Show me a dance, she whispered. The figures moved. Their heads snapped toward her, too fast, too smoothly. One of them raised a long, bony hand and beckoned. The silent watchers turned and drifted into the forest. Not walked, not stepped, glided. Jay stiffened. Nope. Let's go back. But Amara was already moving. Amara! Jace hissed. Something in her chest tightened. A pull she couldn't explain. The world felt heavier, like she was moving through deep water. The figures ahead wove between the trees with unnatural grace, their stilts never making a sound. And then they began to dance. Their movements were slow at first. A turn of the head, a roll of the shoulders. Then their stilts lifted, twisting impossibly in the air. They moved faster, spinning, bending in ways that shattered logic. Reality wavered. Amara felt her vision blur. The trees warped, stretching too tall, their trunks twisting into grotesque spirals. The ground pulsed like something breathing beneath it. Her stomach lurched. Jace! Jace grabbed her arm. His skin was ice cold. Amara, we need to leave. But the dance was changing. The Jumbies' movements grew frantic, violent, jerking like puppets on unseen strings. Their masks, carved in eerie grins, seemed to split at the seams. One of them peeled away its mask. There was nothing underneath. No skin. No bone. No face. Just endless blackness. Jace let out a strangled gasp. They're not dancing. They're hunting. A force wrapped around Amara's body, yanking her forward. Her feet lifted from the ground. She couldn't scream. She was no longer in the forest. She was somewhere else. The sky above was a void, starless and endless. The ground beneath her was no longer dirt, but something, shifting. Shadows stretched unnaturally, writhing like living things. The Moko Jumbie surrounded her, stilts clicking softly as they moved in impossible patterns. She understood now. They were not spirits, not dancers. They were gatekeepers, and she had crossed their boundary. A memory surfaced, her grandmother's voice telling stories of those who escaped the Watchers. You must outdance them, Granny had said. Make them believe you are one of them. It was her only chance. She willed her body to move. She let herself sway, her limbs loosening, bending at wrong angles. She lifted onto her toes, mimicking their eerie grace. The Jumbies hesitated. Faster. She had to move faster. She spun, limbs jerking in unnatural patterns, feeling the pull of unseen strings. For a moment, she was one of them. Then she leaped. She hit the ground hard, gasping. The forest had returned. The night was still. Jace lay beside her, eyes wide. Are we back? A breeze whispered through the trees. The silent Watchers were gone. Amara didn't sleep. When dawn broke, she finally dared to check the mirror. She froze. She was taller. An inch, maybe 2. Her pulse pounded in her ears. Then she heard it. Creak, creak, creak. The sound of wooden stilts. Distant, yet close enough to hear. She turned sharply to the window, heart hammering. The hill was empty, but she knew the truth. The silent Watchers never forget those who watch. And their dance had only just begun.